Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Bigfoot, a new musical, which is playing at City Center downstairs, City Center 1, the bigger space. Not the biggest space, it's the bigger space. Now, before I get into this silly, funny show, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe, and do all those good things. Click that notification bell. It helps me grow this channel so we can talk more about theater, which we all love, right? All right, let's jump into Bigfoot, a new musical. So what did I know about Bigfoot going in? I knew that Amber Ruffin was involved. She's a writer and comedian, best known for her work as a writer on Late Night with Seth Meyers, and she had her own show on Peacock. She has a very distinctive style with her jokes, and I can always kind of feel her fingerprints on the material. I also knew she worked on Too Darn Hot, which I enjoyed, and she got a Tony nomination for co-writing the book for Some Like It Hot, and she worked on the recent revival of The Wiz as well. I also knew that Grey Henson was starring as Bigfoot, and I have loved him in everything I've seen him in. Mean Girls, Shucked, both on Broadway, Finn, which I saw at Namped, and he absolutely killed it as Buddy in the 2024 Broadway revival of Elf. So going in, I felt really good about this one. So how did this show come to be? Well, the musical previewed with a concert performance at 54 Below in 2024 and held developmental performances at New York Stage and Film that same year. The book is by Amber Ruffin and Kevin Sciretta, who is also a writer on Mystery Science Theater 3000, with music by David Schmoll from The Second City and direction and choreography by Danny Mefford, who you may know from Fun Home and the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. The show was produced by Benson Drive Productions in association with Manhattan Theater Club. And speaking of that team, Ruffin apparently spent about a dozen years with her co-creators developing this material, which honestly explains why the jokes are landing so well. They have been tried. It opened off-Broadway on March 1st at New York City Center Stage 1, and it is running through April 26th. So, what is Bigfoot, a new musical, about? Well, not that it really matters, but here's the setup. There's a little town called Mud Dirt. It is a terrible place to live. It sits between a nuclear plant and a chemical factory, and all that pollution is how Bigfoot came to exist. He's some kind of mutant that came to be when his mother, Francine, hooked up with a carny near the nuclear plant. Bigfoot, played by Grey Henson, is living out in the forest because his mother, who lives in town, is scared for his safety. Bigfoot is actually a sweet, gentle giant who sneaks into the town at night to fix things while everyone's sleeping. Meanwhile, there is a corrupt mayor, played by SNL's Alex Moffat, who wants to tear down houses and build a water park. And he uses the idea of a monster lurking in the woods to distract the townspeople from what he is actually up to. Into the mix comes a big game hunter played by Katerina McCrimmon, who is hired to kill Bigfoot. But once she actually meets him, she falls under his charms because, you know, it's Grey Henson. The show is set in the 1980s, and the score is written in the style of 80s pop songs, many of which you will recognize because nothing in this show is subtle. All right, let's get into what's working and what isn't, starting with positives, and there are a lot of them. The production values on this show are genuinely impressive. The set, the costumes, the lighting, the sound design are all top-notch. Tim Maccabee's scenic design has a kind of Main Street USA that went the same way as 42nd Street did in the 80s. It's got shuttered storefronts that have been taken over by liquor stores and strip clubs. The cast is 6 people, and every single one of them is exceptional. Grey Henson is absolutely in his wheelhouse here. He's guileless, sweet, charming, and just has this bottomless toolbox of tricks that works every single time. Crystal Lucas Perry, who plays Bigfoot's mother, Francine, is an absolute force of nature. She has this deep, earthy voice with gorgeous low notes, and she makes even the dumbest joke land. Katerina McCrimmon as the hunter Joanne is hysterical and has a really impressive belt. Alex Moffat brings the SNL energy to the corrupt mayor, and he is physically very funny, doing a lot of Michael Jackson moves. I don't know why, but he is. And Jason Tam as the doctor rounds out the cast with some of the best physical comedy in the show. There's a moment where he's trying to distract the hunter with his dance moves that absolutely killed me. The jokes are plentiful, and they hit more often than they miss. This show is very liberal in its political leanings. There's a lot of jokes about corrupt politicians, environmental destruction, the mistreatment of marginalized people, and despite all the silliness, the show does have something to say. And it is said straight out to the audience in a monologue, so there's no chance of you missing it. Now, what's not working quite as well is the book is thin. But honestly, in this case, that almost feels like it's intentional. The show has a very sketch comedy feel about it, almost like an extended SNL sketch. And the songs are short and punchy. They're one-joke numbers. They're like 1 or 2 minutes long rather than a 3 to 6 minute musical theater moment that takes you on a journey. The lyrics aren't especially inspired, and the musical parodies of 80s songs are pretty on the nose. If you're familiar with songs of the 80s, you'll know which songs they're riffing on each time. Now, other critics have largely agreed on this. The consensus is that the writing is the weakest element. As several reviewers have noted, there's a flimsiness to the book and score that doesn't quite match the pedigree of the talent involved. In place of a book is a barrage of jokes, but if one doesn't land, it's okay, because another one is in the chamber locked and loaded. And the show draws pretty heavily from the other misunderstood creature musicals, Bat Boy and The Toxic Avenger, and it does pull some moments that may have been inspired by Little Shop of Horrors. I mean, it's hard not to. But the show never really reached the heights of the shows that it is pulling from. So, was I bored? Absolutely not. The show is 90 minutes with no intermission, and the pace is relentless. They set the silly tone off early so that you just surrender to it and you let yourself have a good time and laugh. 90 minutes was the right length. No more than 90 minutes. Was I confused? No. The plot is paper thin intentionally, so there's really nothing to be confused about. They set up the rules of this world immediately and you just roll with it. So, bottom line, Bigfoot, a new musical, is not going down in the annals of musical theater history. It's not doing anything that we haven't seen before. But what it is a joyful, hilarious 90 minutes that doesn't ask too much of you and delivers exactly what it promises, a very silly time. If you want to laugh, this show will make you laugh. So why should you see Bigfoot, a new musical? You should see this show if you love sketch comedy, 80s nostalgia, monster musicals, or if you just want to have a laugh with a group of friends. The cast alone is worth the price of admission. This is a collection of genuinely talented performers doing really great comedic work, and this show should send you out onto the street in a very good mood. So, tickets. I was fortunate enough to snag press tickets for this one, and I sat center section, 3rd row from the back, and honestly, I had a fantastic view. And that's the thing about this theater, City Center Stage 1, is that it's the larger of the 2 spaces below New York City Center, but it still feels very intimate, and there really is not a bad seat in the house. So wherever you end up sitting, I think you're going to be fine. So how do you get a good deal on tickets? Well, let me tell you, you got a few great options. If you're a college student, there are free tickets available through the college student program. And if you're a college student, I think you're going to love the humor of this show. And you can't beat free, so go. If you're 35 and under, there's $35 ticket program as well. And if you want to try your luck day of, there's a digital rush on the TodayTix app for $39 that I bet you can score. And if you're a TDF member, you can get tickets for $40. So really, if this sounds interesting at all to you, if you just want to have a good time, there are affordable tickets aplenty. So go check out Bigfoot. I say for the cast alone, they're great, and they're given some funny material to put across, some good jokes. Check it out. Come back. Tell me if you laughed as well, and if you'd recommend it to your Aunt Mabel. All right. See you at the next one. Don't want you